1851. French colonial forces march into West Africa, confident of an easy victory. They outnumber the Dahomey army. They have superior weapons. They have never lost a battle in Africa. Then they see something that makes their blood run cold. An army of women, warriors who take no prisoners, fighters who've sworn a vow of celibacy and death. The French called them Amazons, but their real name was far more terrifying: the Ahosi, the king's wives, the Dolphin warriors. And they were about to teach Europe a lesson it would never forget. Most people don't know this story because it was deliberately erased. But in the kingdom of Dahomey, what we now call Benin, something unprecedented happened back in the 1600s. King Hubaja had a problem. His male soldiers were adequate, but he needed something more, something unpredictable, something that would strike fear into his enemies before the first blade was even drawn. So he did something radical. He recruited women, not as cooks or nurses, but as frontline warriors. At first, it was just his personal bodyguard, elite fighters sworn to protect the king with their lives. But then something unexpected happened. They were better, faster, more disciplined, more ruthless. By the 1800s, the Ahosi, the all-female regiment, made up nearly 40% of Dahomey's entire army. 6,000 warriors who could outmarch, outfight, and outlast any male regiment in West Africa. And they had one rule: if you faced them in battle, you did not survive to tell the tale. Here's what made them so terrifying: it wasn't just their combat skills, it was their psychology. To join the Ahosi, women took vows that completely severed them from normal society. They couldn't marry, couldn't have children, they couldn't even be touched by men outside of combat. They were considered wives of the king, but this wasn't a romantic arrangement. It was spiritual. They lived in the royal palace, isolated from the outside world. They trained from before dawn until after dusk. Their weapons, rifles, swords, and razor-sharp machetes they could wield with surgical precision. But their most feared weapon was their minds. European observers wrote about them with a mixture of horror and fascination. One French naval officer described watching an Ahosi warrior behead a prisoner in a single stroke, then continue eating her meal without breaking her stride. They weren't just soldiers, they were psychological warfare incarnate. In 1851, the French made a fatal miscalculation. They saw the Ahosi as a curiosity, as women playing soldier. They had no idea what was about to hit them. The Battle of Cana, French forces, armed with modern rifles and cannons, advanced on Dahomey's capital. The Ahosi were sent to meet them. What happened next was documented by the traumatized French soldiers who survived. The Ahosi didn't fight like European armies. They didn't form ranks or wait for commands. They attacked in silent, fast, coordinated waves. They used the terrain. They used deception. They struck at night when the French couldn't see them coming, and they showed no mercy. French reports described women climbing fortress walls with knives held between their teeth. They wrote of ambushes where entire platoons simply disappeared. They described hand-to-hand combat where European soldiers, trained since childhood, were cut down by warriors who moved like dancers. The French won that battle, barely, but they lost something more important: their confidence. Here's where the story gets strange, and this is the part historians still argue about. After decades of fighting, France finally conquered Dahomey in 1894. The Ahosi were defeated, disbanded, their weapons confiscated. The last of the warriors were forced into civilian life or died in a final, suicidal charge against French machine guns. But then, reports started coming in. Villages across West Africa began talking about women warriors who appeared out of nowhere to defend them against slave raiders. Travelers spoke of encountering female fighters deep in the forests who used classic Dahomey tactics. Women who moved like ghosts and fought like demons. The French investigated. They found nothing. No camps, no weapons caches, no organized resistance. But the sightings continued for decades, some even into the 1920s. It was as if the Ahosi hadn't disbanded at all, they'd just gone underground. Then, in 2018, something remarkable was discovered. Researchers interviewing elderly women in Benin, the descendants of the Ahosi, learned about a secret tradition. After the French conquest, the surviving Ahosi warriors didn't just disappear. They did what warriors do. They adapted. They disguised themselves as traders, farmers, and priestesses. They married and had daughters, and they taught those daughters everything. Not publicly, not obviously, but in secret training sessions that were passed off as dance ceremonies, in games that were actually combat drills, in stories that were actually tactical manuals. The Ahosi bloodline never died, it transformed. And today, across Benin and Togo, there are women who can trace their lineage directly back to the Dolphin warriors, women who still know the techniques, the vows, and the code. One elderly woman told researchers, "We were never defeated. We just learned to hide in plain sight." The Ahosi challenged everything the colonial world believed about women, about Africa, about civilization itself. They were scientists, strategists, warriors, and survivors. Hollywood gave us the Dora Milaje in Black Panther, but the real all-female African warrior force wasn't fiction, it was history. And unlike the movies, they didn't have vibranium or superpowers. They had something far more dangerous: discipline, intelligence, and a refusal to be erased. The French tried to write them out of history, but you can't erase what lives in blood and memory. Somewhere in West Africa right now, there is a grandmother teaching her granddaughter a dance that is actually a killing technique. 400 years old, the Dolphin warriors never surrendered. They just learned to swim in deeper waters. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as incredible as I did, make sure to like and subscribe for more hidden histories. See you next time.